Good morning. This is the BLAINESWORLD podcast that can be found each week on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn. You can also listen on our Spotify or Apple Podcasts. And you can also get more information, listen to previous shows at the website or our website, www.blainesworld.net. I'm your host, Blaine Greenfield, and I'm here in my Zoom studio in lovely downtown Fairview, North Carolina. Each week, we focus on positive news and information about people and organizations in both Western North Carolina and throughout the country. And to that end, it's my pleasure to introduce perhaps the most positive person I know, and she is Barbie Angell. And Barbie, I want to hold my breath here to talk about all the things you do: writer, actor, MC, artist, clothes designer, bon vivant, you name it. Barbie Angell
Bon
does it.
vivant. Oh.
Bon vivant, exactly. And you can wave to all your fans and friends who are watching this on Facebook, YouTube, wherever they're watching this. Barbie, as I mentioned, has done a whole bunch of things. Her most recent work was writing Act One of Montford Park Players Grimm's Fairy Tales. She emceeing reproductive rights events and reviewing theater for the Tribune papers. And Barbie, the question I ask typically of folks is, as a child, you grew up where?
I grew up in Illinois.
Okay. And as a child growing up in Illinois, did you always know you wanted to do about 47 different things in your life?
No. I wanted to be a ballerina. And then I wanted to be a fire truck.
Okay.
Not a fire person, firefighter, fire truck. I have a whole poem about that. And then when I was 6, I saw the TV show Paper Chase on
Okay.
PBS.
Yeah.
John Houseman, big old crush.
Yeah.
Um, my uncle, who's I don't know, he's only like 15 years older than me. But my favorite uncle, my Uncle Mike, was living on the property that we lived on. And we had 3 houses on a 10-acre farm. And he was always complimenting me on the way that I argued. And he told me I should be a lawyer. And so I delved into Paper Chase as if I could learn the law from watching a TV show that was meant for adults. And I wanted to be a lawyer until I was in a children's home in Aurora, Illinois, for 4 years. Time I was 13 until I was almost 18. And I know that math doesn't work right. And was planning to go to Harvard, and I had the grades and I had the full academic scholarship. And the people that were working at the children's home, it's called Moose Heart. It's sponsored by the Moose organization. So if there's any Moose members, Women of the Moose out there, yay, thank you. Kept me alive. Those people were like, oh my gosh, she's gonna go to Harvard and she's just gonna get eaten alive, because I was coming from a school where I had 24 kids in my senior class. The class below me had like 14, I think. And so they were trying to convince me to go to a 2-year school and then transfer to Harvard. Paper Chase takes place at Harvard,
Right. I
by the
remember.
way.
Yeah.
I mean, so there was a house parent, a woman that cared for us, who had a brother-in-law that was a theater director at a little private kind of academically elite school called Lincoln College. That was their focus, was like academics and the arts. And so he took me down there, any excuse to get out of the children's home for a couple of days. I went willingly. But Jerry Dellinger convinced me that I needed to do this. And he was one of these teachers that if he saw something special in you, he took an interest, and he saw something special in me. So I went to that school, and by the time I was there for like 2 months, I had I had a couple of papers that I had written for my Comp 101 class that kind of went viral around the college and caused a bit of controversy.
You being involved in a controversy,
I know,
I
right?
find that hard to believe.
My how-to paper was how to abstain from having sex on a date. It was very funny. And people would do like how to do your laundry or how to make a peanut butter sandwich. And so Jerry took me aside and he's like, yeah, so here's the thing. You're not a lawyer. You're never going to be a lawyer. You're a writer and, that's what you need to do. And so, yeah, he kind of pushed me to that and to acting and set design and stage managing and, taught me to love theater, which I had never experienced in any real way, and taught me to pursue my passion of writing that I didn't even know I had.
By the way, you mentioned Jerry. Is he still around?
He is not. He is
Okay.
not. He passed away in 2009. But he remained a very big influence in my life up until that point. He actually booked my first poetry reading.
And what's cool about what you're talking about, your experiences, reminds me, what's that other character you play, kind of reliving the essays you wrote about the woman who gets up and tells like not fractured fairy tales, but she tells.
Oh, Princess Clotilda.
Oh, I love her. But that's sort of recreating that story you wrote, I guess. It seems like and what's the origin of her?
Princess Clotilda. So Princess Clotilda is me on stage, really.
Right.
She's all me except amplified. And I had written a piece called I think the first one I wrote was called You're Down There Place. And we did it in the kids show. The kids show, Definitely Not for Kids, was the title. And we had Candace Burchill perform it as like a kindergarten teacher, talking to little kids. And then when Rodney Smith and I did the first, I think it was our first, either our first sketch comedy show, or it was the Crimes and Misdemeanors show, or it was the fundraiser, the super happy fundraiser we did for Arms Around ASD. One of the two, we decided that I was going to perform it and as a princess. And I was trying to come up with a name for her, and my friend Morgan suggested Princess Clotilda, and I loved it. And it turns out he actually was thinking Princess Griselda, which is from Fractured Fairy Tale.
Right.
Yeah. So, which is, I had considered that name, but it just didn't fit. Princess Clotilda, yeah, I love her. And so my character of narrator, played by Blaine Weiss, for the Grimm's fairy tale first act that was done at Montfort Park Players, narrator was based on Princess Clotilda. So it's like keep going with the same character, which is me, basically.
And talking about keep going with the same character. Also, another thing that you were involved in was I guess the play you wrote, or the I don't know what you call it, but was about you. The story, it was done at Magnetic.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was called Death by Sparkle, or What Happens When You Drink Window Cleaner. And it is a play, and it is about my life, and it starts after I had been in the children's home for about a month and a half. Ziz kept secluded for the first month, and so once I got into my dormitory, after that, I tried to kill myself by drinking a bottle of window cleaner. It's this purple stuff that is made in Chicago, Illinois, and it's called Sparkle. So that is where the title comes from. It was supposed to be we did the staged reading of
I was
it.
going to say that, right? I saw it.
Yeah, we did the staged reading of it in June of 2019, and it was supposed to be produced at Magnetic Theater in September of 2020. But then something happened in 2020. Gosh, I can't remember what it was. Yeah, pandemic happened, and so it got delayed. I actually just had a meeting with them, and they still want to do it.
Great.
Looking at doing possibly, because I want to do some revamps on it. They're looking at getting me a director, and possibly us doing a staged reading maybe by the end of the year, maybe early next year, and then doing a full production after that.
Great. I was going to ask you, because I had the pleasure of seeing it. You know, it's a very powerful piece. And
Thank you.
and like I said, yeah, I wondered what happened to it. So you answered the question. And
That is what happened to it.
talk about that too. How was it? Correct me if I'm wrong. You played yourself in that, right? Or you
I
had other
did.
people? Yeah.
I had originally written it with 3 Barbies.
I remember. Yeah.
Which is terrifying if you think about it. And 3 of all of this. And I that was one of the changes I made. I played older me, and Tippin played me as a 13-year-old and a teenager and a college student, I think. And she and I had conversations, and that the original, there were 2 Barbies on stage, those 2 characters, and then the writer, which would have been me sitting in a chair on the stage, watching it all go down and all of that, and interjecting here and there. And I'm going back to that. So I will be playing the writer.
And how is it playing yourself?
Annoying. Oh my gosh. This chick that I am playing, I mean, it's bad enough the writing. No, I don't know, it's weird. It was really weird to see Tippin playing me. And then it was really very surreal to be playing me in things that happened in my life, because it is autobiographical. And even more so with the changes that were made, because, you know, we had to make some changes. The amount of bad things that have happened to me or been done to me in my life, you put that all in a play, and everybody's going to reach for that bottle of sparkle. Right. It's just too much. And so, you know, we kind of combined some stuff and edited some stuff out. And so that was kind of weird. Some of the people that were in it, was also Darren Marshall played Jerry Dellinger. Kelly Christian Shannonfelt was in it. Jeremy Carter was in it. And some of it was just, there was a point where Kelly was yelling, and it was during rehearsal. And I just realized I was just standing there crying. I was like this traumatized kid all over again. It was just like, she's so good. Fortunately, she has moved away. But I have somebody.
Kelly moved away, right?
Kelly moved away.
Which is a shame, because she was so good in it, right?
Yes. I have somebody in mind, and she has said that she will come out of acting retirement to play this role. So not naming any names, because I don't want to put anybody on the spot. But yeah, if this person does it, wow.
Well,
yeah, make me cry.
But I look forward to it. But it was such a powerful piece. And I remember I saw it, and it was so close. So now you have another 3 or 4 years to add into it, you know, more stuff in your life. We're back with Barbie Angell, and Barbie Angell, the writer, actor, MC, artist, you name it, Barbie does it. And we're talking a little bit about theater. We're talking a lot about theater. And Barbie, I was asking you a little bit about, I think the first time I met you I met you at some show. I think it was a Magnetic, or I don't know where it was. And I loved how you introduced yourself. You know, we said hello and whatnot. And you gave me a warning. What was that warning? Do you remember?
I probably apologized for my laugh, and warned you that it was very loud and very uncontrollable. This would have been pre-pandemic, so I didn't say it was contagious. But apparently it is quite contagious. It's the
Well, you know
kind of
what's
laugh that lets other people know it's okay to laugh, as I've been told by directors and actors and such.
well, you know, it's funny you said that, Bobby, because that's my reaction. You know, I remember you mentioned this to me. I said, what is she telling me this for? And yet you said some people, I find it hard to believe, actually get annoyed with it. Do you think?
Yes, yes. They do admonish me for it. Other patrons, now directors, venue owners, managers, actors love my laugh. They ask me to come to their shows. They ask me to come to their rehearsals so that they know where laughs are, because I'm not going to fake it. I laugh if something is funny. I don't laugh to be polite. I don't think anything other than honesty helps in art. So, but yeah, people will, yeah, they will shush me, they will glare at me, and say really nasty things to me and try and shame me
For laughing.
just for enjoying a show that is supposed to be funny. I am not laughing. Someone is, if somebody is on stage dying, if they are, experiencing some sort of trauma, I am not laughing. But if they are being funny, I am laughing. And the thing is it actually comes at a cost for me, because I'm very severely asthmatic, have been my entire life. And exercise is something that triggers my asthma attacks. And laughter is actually, like, my body views that as exercise. So, yeah, you'll often see me pulling out an inhaler at a really funny show. And the next day, having triggered an asthma attack, the next day I'm coughing and, having a hard time breathing. And it's not fun. So, I do actually suffer a little bit for other people's art.
Well, I just wanted to say personally, I appreciate it. And one of the things, like I said, it's just always fun to be near you, because then it also tells me if I miss a joke, you know, after the fact, did I miss something?
Yeah,
But just one of the great laughs. So thank you for that. And
thank
thank
you.
you, Bobby, for so many different things you do. But I know you not
You're
only,
awfully sweet. You're saying such nice things about me. I want to meet me.
okay, that's all true though, because I mean, I know you in so many different contexts. So we're talking a little bit about the play you did. But I also know you as a poet, and talk a little bit about your poetry. And what got you into poetry, by the way?
Actually, I grew up on Shel Silverstein, big fan of Shel Silverstein. Was absolutely devastated when he died. Um, and I've always, I don't know, I've always thought in a cadence and a rhythm and a meter and a rhyme. Um, and when I was my first Christmas in the children's home, um, it's a charity, like a charity place, so people donate to it, and so every year people, different organizations or individuals would donate presents for the kids in this children's home. And bless them, boy, they just don't know what they're I don't know what they're thinking some of the times, because they gave me a diary, and my mail was read before I got it. There's mail I never got. They told me I was accepted to Harvard. I never saw the letter. I don't know if they lied to me about that. There's, everything was read first, and maybe we got it, maybe we didn't. And there wasn't really any privacy. They did the bed checks at night, you know, lift the covers up, shine the flashlight in your face. And so a diary to put my innermost thoughts in as a teenage girl, not going to happen. So I wrote poetry instead, and I obfuscated my thoughts with poetry, because poetry is really good for that. You know, only you know what it means. And actually, almost all of my poetry has hidden stuff in it still to this day. But yeah, I just it became a thing that I did, an art form that I enjoyed. And I continued to write like short stories and stuff like that. Or I should say, I started to in the children's home as well. I won my first writing award there for a piece about Memorial Day, actually. And I almost got kicked out for writing a dystopian piece about the children's home taking over the world. It was very Handmaid's Tale kind of thing, before I read Handmaid's Tale. So
how often do you write poetry?
I don't write it as often now as I used to, because I've been doing other stuff. I still sometimes feel like I have to write something. It just is in my head and it won't go away until I get it down on paper. And some of that stuff ends up being posts on social media, which unfortunately aren't seen anymore, because I write a lot about reproductive rights and trans rights and the persecution of queer kids and all of that. And Facebook has been pushing those posts down. Like a normal Facebook post of mine, you know, a couple years ago about that sort of stuff would get shared 20 to 50 times and have 100 to 200 likes on it or loves or whatever. And now I'm lucky if 3 people see it. And so that's hard. But I mean, I'm not writing it to get likes. I'm writing it to connect with people, and because these words are in my head and they have to come out somewhere. My most recent poetry has been deeply personal. So I don't know that anybody will ever see those poems. Maybe in a couple of years. I don't know. We'll have to see.
Because one of the things I love about your poetry is I love it when I get to see you read it. You know, and I've had the pleasure of seeing you, I think, at 2 different times where you've read your poetry.
Oh, performing it, yeah.
Yeah, and do you enjoy doing that?
I do. I love doing that. I love any chance that I have to make an audience laugh or cry or just feel anything, whether I'm emceeing or performing poetry. I don't like acting as much as either of those things, because you have to stick to a script. And I'm more the type of person that likes to feed off the audience. And if they're feeling something, you know, lean into that and that. I am actually going to be doing a poetry show sometime probably this summer. Rachel Freilich and Ronya, who are both in Wendy and Peter at Montford Park Players. Ronnie Nielsen is playing Wendy, and Rachel is playing Captain Hook. And they are both singer-songwriters. And so I have asked both of them if they would perform at the show with me, and they both said yes. So I'm very happy about that.
One of the nice things, though, to disagree with you a little bit about doing the one-person show or doing stuff that you've written or composed, is that the nice thing, you don't have to memorize it, because if you mess up, you're the only one who knows. You know, exactly. So I don't know in the audience.
The one time I performed poetry at the Orange Peel, I have I was told we weren't allowed to bring our words up on, in paper onto the stage, which was not true, by the way, because everybody else did.
Right, exactly.
But I was early on, and my very first poem, I blanked. I couldn't remember the opening line to the very first poem I was going to do. And I was trying to remember it, and I was vamping for the audience. And this is back when I wore jeans. So I'm wearing jeans on stage, and I was, telling the audience that I had it like written down on my thigh. And if I could, if they just give me a minute, I would drop out right there, and I could figure out what it was. And I just was like going on and on because it was working. And so I was making this audience laugh at a poetry event. And so anyway, it was only like a couple minutes of a bit, but after I was done, it turned out everybody thought that was a thing, like that was a rehearsed that it was like a whole rehearsed thing. And I was told never to tell anybody that was all off the cuff.
Because I'm saying that just sounds like a great routine also, where if Rodney ever does any of his short comedy things, the poet who doesn't remember her lines or whatever, or makes it up, that
actually Rodney is doing another sketch comedy show.
Great.
And it is Friday and Saturday, July 7th and 8th at Attic Salt. And I will be there to host, I believe. But definitely Princess Clotilda will be there with a brand new piece.
Something to look forward to. And talk about talk about brand new pieces. The other thing I know you, of course, for was the the thing you did at Magnetic. It was last year or 2 years ago. You wrote one of the 3 plays that they produced, and talk a little bit about that. At Magnetic, where they had the kids, the Grimm's Tales.
Oh, at Montford.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Oh, no. Montford. Okay. I was like, I don't remember writing. I want to take credit for somebody else's show. Yes, Montford Park Players. Yes. Yes, they did an all-female productions staff of a show. I think it was just called Grimm's Fairy Tales. I don't know if it had a different title. I'm sorry, but everybody would know it by that. And it was the brainchild of Honor Moore, who wrote this season's Treasure Island. I think that's in July, but I'm not positive. And Honor came to me and asked me if I would be willing to or interested in writing one of the pieces. It ended up being my piece, which was mostly original, kind of a little based in Rapunzel and a little based in the Griffin. So, and then Katie Langwell wrote the Rumpelstiltskin, and then Honor Moore wrote the Shoes That Dance Themselves to Pieces, also known as the 12 Dancing Princesses. And that was incredible. It was 2021, so we were still pandemicking quite a bit. So I did learn a lot about what I would do next time with the show, and working with the director and in working with the cast. Because had I been at rehearsals, I would have made some edits, cut some stuff down and that, and maybe just made it a little bit funnier in places. Working with those actors, there were 28 actors, and oh my gosh, they just kept making the show better and better and funnier, and I just was delighted. I was at every performance, and I was delighted about everything they did. Todd Levin played my King Gerald, and even though I had taken it out of the script, he could tell that I had written a day drinking king. And he had all these, my character had all these things that he would say to Gaia Eggert, who played Princess Jane, my little peanut M&M, and these terms of endearment that were all food-based, and they just got weirder and weirder. And Todd messaged me and said, "Can I make up some new ones?" And I was like, "Yes, make
Very
up,"
talented guy.
and he's this foodie. So, he's like I'm not a foodie. I would be like my Pop-Tart.
Do you see, by the way, do you see
My
yourself?
roast lamb, my duck à l'orange, with fennel or something. Fennel's a thing, right?
Got me. Do you see yourself writing any more plays?
Actually, yes. Another one of my delights in that play was meeting John Adams, who played Rumpelstiltskin, and having had this premise for a play that had been spinning around in my head since I was 9 years old. And meeting John Adams, all of a sudden, this play that had been just not quite gelling in places, I saw him playing a character in this play. And then I met Lynx Calais, Calais,
Something like that. Yeah.
sorry. And another character immediately. And they're not characters based on either of them. I could just all of a sudden see them playing these roles and how they would play them, which meant they would have these personality types and these, and they just filled out. Like I said, I loved everybody that I got to work with on that show, even though my work was done before the show opened. But I really did make a lot of friends in there, and I want to put them. Gaia Eggert, there's a character that I'm writing for them as well in this play. So John Adams actually is back visiting.
Oh, great. I was going to ask you.
Yeah, because he's been in Germany for a year and a half and moves back at the end of the year, but he's here for the summer. He is going to play Ben Gunn in Treasure Island at Montford Park Players.
But John always cracks me up. Very talented guy.
Yes.
I just
Yes.
love watching him perform. And so you're doing this in spare time. Let's talk about some other things you do. I call it in your spare time, because you seem to be into, Barbie, so many different things. And I'll ask you, what are you doing? And then it takes me half an hour to, catch all the things you're doing. I have to give you kudos for something else you do. And we're not saying it today, but if you ever notice, Barbie always wears kind of these beautiful outfits. And do you design these, or is this something?
I do design them. I upcycle because I don't know how to use a sewing machine. If I could use a sewing machine, I could rule the world. But I don't know how to use a sewing machine. So I upcycle, which is taking clothes that would be normally put in a landfill and ripping them apart and making new clothes out of them. It's been fun. It's something I really enjoy doing. I have a very specific silhouette of the costumes that I wear. And so I go with that. I don't know, I might branch out. I did a coat. I did a really fun coat with flowers all over it, 96 flowers all over it, that look like they're flying up or floating down or something like that.
Because I once asked you, I have to imagine people approach you and want you to do stuff for them, or do you ever get people asking you to do stuff?
I do. Nobody's ever offered to pay me for it. Actually, no, people actually do offer to pay for me. They pay me for it. They just it's never actually happened. I get that offer quite a bit. I don't know if it's that the people that want me to do it don't feel like they can pay me what I'm worth, or if I don't know, they forget. I don't know. Yeah, I would love to be able to do that and make some income as well. I also I'm very good with clothes. It's just a thing. I don't know what it is, but I just took my friend Daniel Sandoval, who
Okay,
he's
sure.
an actor. I just took him out like a month ago maybe and taught him about clothes because he wanted to come up with a new wardrobe, and, you know, kind of talk to him about materials that work with his body type, and, you know, the aesthetic that he was looking for and all of that. And that was a whole lot of fun. And seeing him out and about now, and he's seems more confident in his attire, and that's a beautiful thing. I really, I know everybody isn't as concerned about fashion necessarily, which is fine. But I really think wearing something that makes you feel good about yourself, I think is always a good thing.
Bob, if I can ask you about one other thing you do too. So again, all these different activities, and you mentioned before that you also do a lot of emceeing and hosting.
Yeah,
do you enjoy doing that?
I love doing that. I love doing that. I used to do that and get paid very well for that. I I stopped um I stopped doing the getting paid for it part after a while, like just before the pandemic, really, like a year or so before the pandemic. I really stopped doing a lot of the getting paid for it festival type things, and started putting my focus on fundraisers and benefits. I was the MC for Planned Parenthood's Condom Couture for the last 2 years that they did that. I have been the MC for a lot of friends fundraisers for medical needs, Kenny Caps, Kai Strange,
Yeah.
Sheila Shine, and I'm a really good MC. It is, I am terrible at taking a compliment about anything I have no control over, but for something like that, that I have spent a very long time working at, I can absolutely acknowledge that I do it very well. And I do it in a different way. And it keeps people entertained. It keeps them there. It keeps them interested in what's going on, and, you know, often moves them to donate more or whatever. So a fundraiser, a benefit, a nonprofit, you know, they can't afford a good MC, you know. So if that's a skill that I have that I can give them, I would much rather do that. My mortgage company is not as happy about it.
Well, that's key. We'll do a fundraiser.
But
We'll do a fundraiser for
they're
the
not
mortgage
happy
company.
about anything really. So yeah,
But
no,
the key, Barbie, I think, watching you though, is that it comes across that you do have fun with it. You know, so it looks like,
oh, I do.
you know, that you're having fun. Out of all things you do you have anything in particular that you like doing best?
Sleeping.
Okay, when you can.
No, I like to do anything that helps kids. Anything that helps kids at all is top of my list. I like anytime I can make someone laugh. Um, you know, I go to the grocery store, or you know, to a theater for a show, and I'm making people laugh in line. I'm making the people who are working laugh, you know. It being able to, that is also a skill. I don't know that I'm naturally funny, but being able to make people laugh, especially when nothing else would be going on, or they're having a bad day, or they're at work and people are being mean, that's always really nice.
And Bobby, I almost forgot one last thing. Again,
Yes.
it's always something else. I'll see, Bobby, what you're up to, and you'll tell me something else you're into. I was so impressed. The latest thing, which is just perfect for you, you've now become a theater critic, if you will, and talk a little bit about that.
Not a critic.
But no, that's a good point. Talk about that. Yeah.
So I am just a person who, if I like something that someone is doing, I want to tell everybody. If I have a good experience at a concert or a show, or I, you know, fall in love with a band or an artist of any sort, and they've moved me. They've made me feel something. I want everyone else to have that opportunity. It's just kind of who I am. I don't really know why. And so I do that when I go see shows, plays. I do that like on social media and that. And of course, if I happen to see you, Blaine, I will bend your ear for quite a while about a show you have to go see. But a critic, they're looking at the whole thing, and they're looking at it in a very, I think, more logical, analytical way. As Mark Jones from Asheville Community Theater told me recently, I write an emotional based review, because that's how I think. I don't want the spoilers of a reviewer or a critic. I don't want them to tell me the plot of a show. I don't want them to have me do research on this actor or that actor, and the things that they did before, and how, all of it intertwined to lead to this place. I want to go into a show and know how I'm going to feel. Is this going to make me happy? Is it going to make me sad? Is it going to make me think? If it does all of that, ooh, that's a good show.
So if people want to find these pieces you're starting to write, where do they find them?
Yeah, so it's through the Tribune papers. They actually Anthony Abrera, who's an editor there, I think he's creative editor. I should have looked that up. But he actually asked me to, he'd read my work and had actually asked me to write for the paper, and asked me what I wanted to write about. And we have a bit of a void in theater reviewing these days in our local papers. So I chose theater, and I'm very happy about it. The next one that's coming out is for Montford Park Players Wendy and Peter, which isn't coming out this week. It's coming out next week. But you can find them in these yellow boxes around town, like Charlotte Street Starbucks and outside Pack Library and City Bakery. I think some of the Ingalls have them. And then they're also the Tribune papers on Instagram and Facebook, and you can find their website through that as well. And yeah, it's been great, and they pay me, which is really nice to get paid as a writer, especially with the writer's strike going on. I feel like they pay me very what they're paying me, I think, it shows they value me.
And if
See,
folks want,
I can't talk, and I'm a writer.
If folks want to keep up on what you're doing, Bobby, the best way to keep track of you is what?
Oh, do you want like a description of my car?
No.
Or
no, just how do they find you online or anywhere else?
Yeah, I really need to get on the Patreon and the website. My Patreon and my website are both woefully neglected. And so, I mean, you can look at stuff I did do, patreon.com/Barbie Angell, BarbieAngell.com, 2 L's in Angel and Barbie, just like the movie.
I'll ask you to repeat that. Are you also on Facebook?
I am on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, and I am Barbie Angell on all those things.
So if you want to find you, you can track you down in those different ways.
Yes. Yes. Stay away from my car, though.
Okay. Anyway, Barbie Angell, as always, a pleasure. And I look forward to seeing you sometime in the near future, if not before then. And we'll speak to you soon.
Thank you so much for all the sweet words.
Always. See you soon, Bobby.
Bye.